Welcome back to Out of Spec Bits, and I have a software video. Now, we've looked at software before on this channel, of course on other channels as well. We like to assess current cars, new cars, how good is their software, how capable is their route planning, how responsive is the screen, everything behind that. I have an interesting proposition to make today, and I think that is this old Model S behind me, 12 years old, a dozen-year-old car, practically vintage. I think this has better software than half the new cars on sale today. Let's jump into why. Okay, before we jump in, this is, yes, the Model S 85 in this case, but this is what you would get basically in 2012, 2013, 2014. This actually comes equipped with MCU 1 right now, but that is upgradable to MCU 2. What the heck is MCU? Well, it is not the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Actually, it is, but in this case, it's not. It's Media Control Unit. That's what it stands for. I think we're actually on MCU 3 at this point in modern cars, but MCU 1, Tesla Model 3 was introduced with MCU 2, by the way. So MCU 1 was really only Tesla Model S and X early on. That only lasted up until like 2018. So early cars had early hardware to power early software. It all worked back in the day when it came out. But the software looked much different. It's been updated over the years, still gets updates, and that's saying something now 12 years later. But yes, I have a whole other video on this car, debating whether it's a really good purchase now, being a cheap car versus some of the other used cars out there. I mean, you can find used Honda Civics or a used Model S for the same price. Now, you might have to go back a few years for the Model S to be the same price and maybe a bit more miles. But that being said, you can still find them for the same price. So it's one of those old-fashioned arguments of, do you buy a cheap used luxury car or a more current economy car? Yeah, there's fun ways to play that argument in your head. But I think this is a compelling car for a lot of reasons. But I do want to look at the software, because software-driven cars, that's been a complaint about some people about Tesla or EVs in general, being all computers. You've taken the car out of the car. It's just a software company that makes cars now. So how good is the software? Let's take a look. All right, when this car came out, this was huge, this 17-inch display. It also looked very different, looked very, how should I say, GameCube-ish? Like the graphics were, well, today definitely seem dated, but back then, wow, they looked super dated. I'm really curious if anyone has an original Model S first couple of years with the original software not updated. Is that even a thing? That'd be really cool to see, like a time capsule of that, because this has obviously been updated. We'll get to this in a minute, but first off, I want to look at the driver's display, which, yes, it is a big difference if you are debating Model 3 versus Model S. Obviously, Model S has the driver's display. That's also changed over the years with updates and even with hardware. This is the original one. And yeah, it's all right. It's an LCD display. Dimensions are, I believe, 1280 by, or sorry, 12, yeah, I think it's 1280 by 480. So it's kind of a 480p experience. Not very high resolution, but I'd say high enough. Like for the day, it was definitely decent, but like if you really zoom in, yeah, there's the pixels. There's the pixelated Model S. Nice. So yeah, but it's fine. It kind of does all the tricks you want, and car is off. Let's see if it detects the key. It had troubles earlier detecting the key. Key not in vehicle. Come on. The key might be low battery. That could be a thing. There we go. Okay. So that's what that looks like. Classic display, I would say. Has your efficiency stats on both sides, I guess. Trip meter, efficiency gauge, and then this thing with the kilowatts, the region, the miles per hour. I actually really, really like this, how it lays out. And yes, 128,000 miles in this baby. It's done well. There's really not much flexibility with this display either. You can use this button on the steering wheel, which is kind of broken in this car. It works sometimes, there we go, to adjust some things on the fly. Display brightness, I believe that's, yeah, should be. Fan speed, temperature, all that. And you, of course, have your voice command, which not sure if that works well. Hello? What can you do? Oh God, it's gonna pull up the web browser. That's something we'll get into in a minute. So that, I don't know if that's super useful. Actually, turn the temperature down 1 degree. Okay, that worked immediately. So it's turned it to 69. We're definitely going to leave that right there. Nice. So yeah, not much to talk about with this display. It can be upgraded. I believe MCU 2 upgrade gives you a slightly high resolution, newer display. I think that would bring it up to 720 by 1920 as far as resolution, so a bit crisper resolution and a bit more modern vibe on everything, although it may also depend on your autopilot hardware, because if you upgrade to MCU 2, you may be able to have FSD capability to an extent with the likes of hardware 2 or 2.5, whatever like that. So oh, it did bring up the web page of all the things the voice assistant can do, such as open charge port. That's nice, because the charge port function on this car doesn't really work on the exterior, so you do have to go in here and do that. So let's set the phone up and look at the center display, because that's really the main component of all this. Okay, so this is MCU 1 on the giant 17-inch touchscreen, which, yes, for the day was insane. I mean, just think about what this car was going up against back in the day, and it was cars with much smaller screens, if any screen at all. The only other EV really in the playing field was the Leaf, which I believe maybe had a screen, but it was like pretty hilariously embarrassing compared to this. So yeah, this really was genuinely state-of-the-art and totally impressive for back in the day. It used to have more kind of segregation of where things were, so you could have like a split screen situation. Originally had quadrants for like different things that you were supposed to do. Now they've kind of moved towards this more seamless, more modern design. This has kept up with modern updates. In fact, let's look at the software version right now. It's on version 11, which I guess for this car must be the newest one, because I see no pending updates available. Not the fastest thing, but I will say MCU 1, when it first came out, it was 3G capable, and also had radio availability, so you could stream radio stations, but that's really about it. It was kind of a bit limited. So there was a recall on the eMMC, the embedded multimedia chip, which is basically an SD card, but like permanently on the chip. That actually failed quickly due to excessive data logging. That was later resolved by software update, but I think the software update came years later. So it's still a failure point, and a lot of cars with the original eMMC in MCU 1 have actually failed. So they update that by putting a new, it was 8 gigabyte eMMC originally, and now it's a 64 gigabyte. I'm guessing this has that fix, if I had to guess, because I know that improves a few things. And so I think that's probably why this is a little bit better than it used to be, but this is still not MCU 2. This is MCU 1, which I'm still genuinely impressed with. I had to actually ask Brent, who I'm borrowing this car from, over at Conduit EV, shout out to those guys. If you need your local Tesla fixed in Southern California, that's a great shop. Or any EV, really. But those, yeah, he's like, no, we haven't actually put MCU 2 in this car yet. We might do that now, so we're going to look into that. But as of right now, MCU 1, I'm guessing with the upgraded eMMC, gets you this far. So if you are buying an old Tesla, you have to keep an eye out for whether that's been addressed. If not, maybe it needs to be addressed. And early cars also potentially had some yellowing around the edge of the screen. That's something that can also be remedied with replacing the screen. Or upgrading to MCU 2, which has the improvements on the screen, or at least I guess, I forget what was causing that yellowing, but it's all been resolved with newer parts. So you could check, by the way, going into software, additional vehicle information. This has the MCU 1. You know that because it says NVIDIA Tegra chip. So there's actually 2 NVIDIA Tegra chips, one controlling this screen, one controlling the driver's display. And those are slightly different chips, not identical, but that's how you can tell. It's the old NVIDIA chip. Modem capabilities, 2G, 3G, and 4G. So that's why I think this has the new eMMC, or at least the new modem, which was a separate upgrade. It's really confusing, but I swear it makes sense if you look into it. So this has the upgraded modem, which allows LTE connectivity, which allows, connectivity, because 3G is basically non-existent at this point. But MCU 2 came along, adding Intel Atom, more powerful than the NVIDIA Tegra stuff. And you can upgrade to the MCU2, like I said, but you lose the radio connectivity, which is right here. Yeah, you would actually lose, you'd lose this AM and FM, and I do think actually MCU2 might not even get to have AM at all. So if you really like AM for some reason, I don't know if you can even have that. But once you upgrade to MCU2, you lose your radio antenna unless you opt to add that back in, which is like another $500. So I guess maybe that's worth it if you're really a radio enthusiast. But that also gives you theater mode, faster connectivity on the app. You can schedule cabin preconditioning, FSD capabilities if you have the external hardware for that. And it's like $1,500 to $2,000 roughly, give or take. Depending on the model maybe. But yeah, I think it's worth MCU2 for sure. I've heard it can breathe new life into your car, but specifically looking at MCU1, let's see what this allows you to do. So looking through here, all the software controls, you know, like I said, this has gone through iterations over the years, but this is all matching modern Tesla feel now. You know, if you get into an old Tesla versus a brand new Model 3, it'll all feel familiar because all the things are relatively similar place. This has, you know, Creep was added as a software update on this car later. It didn't launch with Creep, but they realized later that some people might want that. But this also doesn't have one pedal driving. So it will actually basically regen to a stop, but then you might start rolling backwards. But it also has hill hold assist. So if you are on a really steep hill, pull off the brake, it'll hold your brake for a bit while you do then move forward. So that's kind of a thing. And steering adjustments, regenerative braking. Suspension, this is equipped with air suspension. So that's nice. Not the smart air suspension, but just air suspension. Smart air suspension came out later, I think. Charging, so it's where you can set your charging limit. This has a 40 amp onboard charger, so not the 48 amp that came later. You can still do scheduled charging though, which is nice. Vehicle settings, walk away door lock. I guess I'll turn that back on now that I'm done filming outside the car. And yeah, typical things. Mirror auto tilt. I like that a lot. I'm gonna leave that on. Lights, yep, great. Display, it's a little bit, yeah, it doesn't respond super well. But yeah, despite being a little laggy, it's still ironically better than some current systems. Trips and stuff, yeah, not crazy efficient stats, so that's worth considering. And then you can set all those things, safety, etc. Let's see, anything interesting in here? Not really. Service stuff, software, of course, and upgrades, which I think will come, yeah, to nothing. So can't get FSD on this car. Makes sense. So that's basically that. Let's look at the map really quick. This is one of the big components of this car and what I think is still fairly impressive. I mean, moving around the car like this, pinch to zoom, it is a little bit slower to load at times. We have 2 bars out of, what is that, 6? So not the most impressive connectivity, but still does load stuff, by the way. And can even do satellite view. Wow, and that loaded pretty well as well. So let's try to navigate to Fort Collins. Nice way to test the system here, because that's where our office is, and I'm in San Diego. Let's see what it says. I know this is one thing that gets much faster on the later chips, but still decent on here. I'd say, well, not class leading compared to current cars, but still probably not the slowest compared to all the new cars on sale, which is crazy. There are brand new cars with worse route planning. There are also new cars with no route planning, which really blows my mind. This had route planning for like ever. So we'll see how long it takes. I did play with this earlier though, so I do know this car versus my Model 3, doing this drive of about 1,000-ish, a little over 1,000 miles, will take about 4 hours longer in this old car. So if you're really into road tripping, actually maybe 5 hours longer. If you're really into road tripping, this is not the fastest way to do it. But there it did. Came up with all the stuff, and it's still loading stops, so that might take a bit. And yes, quite a few stops, a lot more than I would need with my car, but you would eventually get there. So route planning does work, although you are a bit more limited with this route planning. If I go here, yeah, there's your options, but there's no way to like set another stop as far as I can tell. Yeah, that'll cancel it. So there's no way to do consecutive stops. That is definitely left out, whereas newer Teslas, very easy to add stops, rearrange stops, etc. I'm guessing this system just can't handle it. It'll be really interesting if MCU 2 will actually get us there. So cancel that. Route planning works. It's not quite as capable, but definitely decent. And yeah, if you roll into any charger, I guarantee you'll be charging longer than it says you will, because this car really charges pretty poorly. 100 kilowatt peak, you're looking at maybe 50 kilowatts, 50%. Yeah, not ideal. So that's that. Already gone through all that. Otherwise, yeah, phone, camera, it is only the single camera. It is somewhat of a potato, but I would say for 2013, that's actually decent. I've seen new cameras, Rivian Gen 1, that look the same or worse than this. So that's pretty funny to me. Then you have Toy Box, Arcade, Browser, which, yeah, the browser is pretty bad. Maybe I'll go to something like apple.com. Sorry if you're anti-Apple, but it's not very fast to load things. This is kind of an older Qt-based browser, like I think almost like OG QuickTime stuff, not even officially supported by a lot of systems. Doesn't really load a lot of websites correctly. The new browsers on MCU 2, or browser I should say, is actually Chromium based. So actually modern, actually more functional. And this still though, like, that's kind of impressive, honestly. Oh yeah, WWDC is coming up. Sweet, okay, that'll be sweet. But yeah, it's fine. The browser works, but I don't know if anyone uses their browser, like actually uses it. Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious. Then we have Arcade. So this is where you'll have your games. Really curious if these will function very well. Let's see, like if I do, what's the most intense looking game? Actually, they're all pretty basic games. That would make sense, I guess. Well, let's try Asteroids. See how long that takes to load. Play. Okay, well, I guess very basic games will naturally have, oh geez. Well, that's pretty bad. How do I play this? Okay, well, maybe I shouldn't be playing X. Okay, never mind. That's fine. Arcade and then Toy Box. So you have all your usual stuff here. Let's try the romance mode. Oh wait, don't blast the heat. It's really hot outside. Ah, it took a bit to load too. But it's basically just like a blown up version of the fire pit that was on the Model 3. Okay, well, turn climate back on. That was a bit too warm for my liking. This does have the submarine mode though. That's pretty cool. Turn that on, go back here, go to suspension, boom. James Bond-ish. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, whatever. So you can see very high, standard, and low is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So that's your fun toy version there. But yeah, not quite as many things. No light show. Yeah, you're missing some of the games, and you don't have the theater mode at all. So you do have Spotify and Tidal, but no Apple Music, no Apple Podcast, no theater mode. All those need the MCU 2 upgrade. So maybe that's worth it alone to me as an Apple Music user. Everyone will make fun of me. Timon, who's probably editing this video, will make fun of me. But hey, I like Apple Music. I think I glossed over this earlier, but this car has the sunroof, by the way, which is really cool. So if I open that, yeah, and there's all the glare on the screen. So we'll close that again. But I love the sunroof. Maybe it's a hot take. Curious if anyone likes the early Model S sunroofs. I just think every time I see a Model S with a sunroof, it's really cool. But that leads us to, we're basically done with this video. It's not too long or too crazy, but audio. I want to talk audio. So if I pull back up, let's just say radio, I guess. Right now, this is kind of a smile curve. This is the premium audio system. You can tell because the audio will go, oh wait, I don't want to play any audio, but the volume will go up to 11. So the audio on the driver screen, once you scroll it up to 11, that's how you know. But also, it just sounds good. This is the premium hi-fi sound system. I feel like you should be able to tell the difference. And if you look in the trunk, there is a bump in the passenger side on the far right side where there's usually a cubby, and that is the subwoofer. So you'll have your full 12 speaker sound system. I think sounds really good, really impressive for the day. I think that is absolutely worth having. Once again, you can tell if you have it by going into here, additional vehicle information, audio system, premium. There were various forms of audio systems over the years, but at some point they became standard as all premium. I mean, I guess it's worth looking at a Reddit thread for any given model year you're thinking about buying. So I think that's pretty much it. I am impressed. So I'm curious if you guys think that's impressive. Is the software better than you thought? Worse than you thought? Maybe you just didn't even know what to expect from software from an old Model S. But this car, again, 12 years old, maybe longer, because technically a lot of times 2013 model year comes out late 2012. So 12 to 13 years old car still has, I would say, comparable software to a lot of modern cars. Yes, it launched with earlier, probably slightly more buggy, less modern looking software, but I think it was modern for the day. And that's also a testament to how much this car has been updated. You know, we've seen some more recent cars not even getting great updates or not even having over-the-air updates at all. This had over-the-air updates 12 years ago, still gets them today. It's crazy to see cars that supported. Yes, it doesn't get all the newest features, so that's one thing to keep in mind. You know, if you're buying a new car, even now, you may not have every single update that it ever comes out with if you're trying to keep it long term. But the fact that this gets most all the updates, and then you can even upgrade the entire control system, the chips, the MCU, to have even more capabilities and make it feel refreshed, as people say. So curious to get that in this car and maybe play around with that. But till then, that's been your nice little look at old software still being good, still being relevant, still being absolutely useful.